Hello, my name is Solala Towler, and I'm here to give you a brief introduction to the ancient book of divination called the I Ching. In the West, we call it the I Ching. In China, they call it the I Ching. And this book goes back 6,000 years. So it's been used for many, many, many generations and is still as useful today as in the ancient world of China. The I Ching itself is composed of 64 images we call hexagrams, which are each made up of six lines, either a straight line, we call a yang line, or a broken line, a line with a little space in the middle, we call a yin line. And the combination of all these images, there are 64 different ways to read it. And the basic idea is that the book itself is translated as the Book of Changes, can also be called the Book of Transformations. The idea is that everything in the universe, including us, even including our own body, is going through changes and transformations all the time. The whole universe has been going through changes and transformations since time immemorial. And I like to think of it as the great wheel of life. And where are we on that great wheel of life in any given moment of time? We may be in a place where we're receiving a lot of input, a lot of inspiration from the spiritual realms. And this would be a good time, say, to start a new business, a new relationship, or just find out some information about what's happening in our body and being. Or conversely, we may be on the place of the wheel where we don't have the support from the spiritual realms. And so it's not a good time to move forward with a new business, new relationship, or something like that. According to legend, the symbols of the I Ching themselves were created by someone called Fu Shi, who lived in 2852 BCE. And then in 1143 BCE, another guy named King Wen systematically organized these 64 hexagrams. And extensive commentaries were added to it for many generations and for the next 1,500 years. And the most important of them being the one we call the Ten Wings, which is ascribed to Confucius, or in China called Gongfuzi, who lived from 551 to 479 BCE. So studying the I Ching, I offer readings, divination readings based on the I Ching, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. The idea is that to not only get readings from the I Ching, but to actually study the I Ching itself is helps us to learn that everything is relative and nothing with form or even without form is static. Things are always moving, things are always changing. Even the very cells in our body are dying off. We expel them, we create new cells, we create new linings for our stomach, for our heart, for our brain. And the ideas that we learn from the I Ching and from Taoism in general is that it is not good to be overly rigid and assertive. In Taoism, we have one of the most, if not the most important principle is called Wu Wei. Wu Wei translated directly to English means not doing. But what it actually means is not overdoing, not overextending, not forcing. Anytime we come up to an obstruction in our life, our first thought, at least the first thought for many people, is to try to ram our way through it, break our way through it. The I Ching teaches us that when we come up to an obstruction, could be physical, could be emotional, could be psychological, could even be spiritual, this is a time to relax, step back, and gather our chi for however long it takes. Our chi is our vital life force energy. Gather it until we are strong enough to overcome the obstacle. But it's never a good idea to try to break through the obstacle. And so the I Ching doing and reading with this ancient book of divination can tell us where we are on that wheel, how we should be moving forward in our life, or how we should be waiting and still and allow our energy to gather and grow of itself. The I Ching helps us enable to discern good fortune from bad fortune in any situation and to respond appropriately with a good positive attitude. For instance, we may get one of the hexagrams is called the abyss. That sounds a little scary, but it's about we are in a situation where we can't move forward, we can't move backward, we can't move up or down, and we may feel very frustrated and angry and even fearful in this sort of situation. But the I Ching, especially the Taoist version of the I Ching that I use, teaches us that every situation in our life, what we would consider positive or negative, can be used for our own spiritual cultivation. So the I Ching is not really a fortune telling, like, is my fortune good or bad? It's about here's the situation, describes the situation. These hexagrams are made up of two trigrams, three lines, and each trigram is associated with a symbol from nature, wind, mountain, water, wood, thunder, all these kinds of things. And it sets up the situation for us so that we can get the information we need to figure out what is the appropriate movement or the appropriate response to this situation. Now, there are different ways to arrive at the hexagram. Many people are used to using three coins. For instance, we would throw three coins. We call it throwing. We were dropping, really, the three coins on a table or something like that. And the there are we usually traditionally we use Chinese coins, although you don't need to use Chinese coins. You can use any coins from whatever realm you live in, and one side would be ascribed to a yang side. Usually that's the one that has a face or a person on it. The other side of the coin is a yin side. And when we throw these 6 times, and each time we get a line, and we're building our hexagram from the bottom up to 6 lines. And we will get, if there's two yang coins, that means it's a yang or unbroken line. If there's two yin coins, that means it's a broken line. There's other ways too. The book that I use, the main book that I use, is from my Taoist teacher, Ching Intro, and his version is a very Taoist version. Very much involved with what I was saying earlier about how can you use any situation in your life for your spiritual cultivation. And his version is called The Book of Changes and the Unchanging Truth. And we use a version that uses seeds, tiny seeds. He calls wisdom seeds. They're seeds that are used in Chinese medicine for treating eye problems. So I think of them as they treat vision, or I use them as envisioning. And those we take just little pinches of the seeds, we count them. If it's an odd number, it's a yang line. If it's an even number, it's a yin line. So there are different ways to use it, and I can guide you if you already have some that you've worked with I Ching before. If you have a question, say you have a question about a situation or whether it's good to move forward or backward at this particular time and space, then I would ask you what your question is. And you may be seeking guidance about something specifically, or you may be just wanting to know, what do I need to hear right now from the spiritual realms? What do I need to look at in my life? And usually in an hour, we have enough time to do two readings on two separate things or on one thing. For instance, I Ching is not traditionally used to ask a yes or no question. Should I do this? Instead, what you would do, you would ask a question like, what would be the outcome of doing this? Or what would be the outcome of not doing this? The outcome of doing this or the outcome of doing that. Sometimes we get a reading for doing something and it looks really good, really positive, really strong. But then we do one for not doing it, at least not doing it in this present moment, and it's way better. So I invite you, if you are in a situation where you need some guidance from the spiritual realms, to join me. And you can go to my website. which I will put a link below, but it is www.abodetao.com, abodetao.com. The name of my business is Abode of the Eternal Tao. And if you scroll down, you'll see a lot of my books and classes there, which you're welcome to look into as well. If you scroll down to the third page, you'll see the I Ching readings, and you can click on that. Now, I usually charge $99 for the readings, but right now, for the month of December, I'm doing sort of a holiday sale here, and I'm only charging $75. So you can schedule a reading for yourself or even someone else if you want to give it as a gift to someone else. And my email address, if you have any questions about any of this, my email address is my name, Solala, Solala, at abodetao, abodetao.com. And so if you have questions, you want to schedule something, you're not quite sure how to proceed, feel free to write to me. And as soon as you click and schedule a reading, then I will get in touch with you and we'll set up a time and a date. So thanks for listening to all these words. And hopefully we can do some work with the I Ching that can help us into the word of the wordless realm, the true spiritual realm. So thank you all.